as well by none other than Geoffrey Ruku, who is a member of parliament for Baden North. So a lot we'll be having on the table to discuss today. Also remember, tomorrow is a big day for Parliament with the resumption of it, and we have a huge intro waiting for them also on that particular issue on the finance bill. But today, let's see how the weather will be today. At least it was sunny yesterday, numbingly cold it has been last week. Everyone has been complaining. Let's see how the week will be this week or today for that particular matter. And I just want also to remind you that we have the Met Department saying from now henceforth until October, it's going to be dry and warm. So this is a departure from what they'd given earlier, that from July to October, it will be numbingly cold, so you have to keep yourself warm. So let's see how the weather will be today. right, let's see what is fresh off the press today. Raila this way, Raila that way. Watermelon, from an astute defender of democracy and human rights. Today, opposition leaders' words cannot be taken to the bank since he's bound to change his mind again and again. On protest, he seems to be blowing hot and cold, and you can follow the story on page 4 and 5. And this is regarding, of course, his change of tone and his new demands as well. And still, he's gagging for those cabinet positions in the, of course, executive government of Dr. William Ruto. Also, Raila this way, Raila that way, as Gen Z youth plan more demos. That is how the story goes as well. Protesters march along Kenyatta Avenue in Nakuru recently, and you can see the story on page 650. That is the number of protesters killed after being shot by officers. And Ruto plans crackdown on sponsors of protest. President William Ruto has warned alleged sponsors of anti-government protest, challenging them to come forward and give him alternatives to his leadership. You have a story on page 7 of today's publication. Rest to feel police boss. Slot begins. 8 senior officers will face an interview panel beginning today as the government seeks to fill Deputy Inspector General positions. You have the story on page 8 of the publication today. Kamal meet that turned to farmers' worst nightmare. That is on page 10 and 11 of the Standard this morning. Also remember to have Health and Science Bullet magazine. Get all the wiser as far as bipolar is concerned. My struggle with bipolar disorder. And tough rules for coffee auction. That is new rules. You can follow that on the business pages of the Standard today. Match 2 EA games gathers momentum. That is on page 30 and 31 of the Standard today. This is how it looks. Make sure you grab a copy for yourself to get all informed as far as the politics of the day is concerned, and other stories as well that really interest you. Let's see the Daily Nation. Enough is enough. Ruto warns Gen Zs. That is what is on the front page of the publication today. A day to tomorrow's planned anti-government protest, President William Ruto issued strongest warning yet, vying to crush what he termed as tyranny of anonymous, faceless, formless, sponsored people out to plunge Kenya into anarchy. You have a story on page 4 of the publication today. Also, Kenyans linked to 14 billion shillings Israeli tender scam for 10 years, leading to 2018. Officials from an Israeli contractor would jot down transactions details of kickbacks paid to Kenya's government officials to secure lucrative road contracts. That little black book could now open a Pandora's box in Kenya, and we have the former PS of road transport also linked here. The former minister that also from the Kibaki regime as well has been listed here, and a permanent secretary. It was then permanent secretary also linked to this particular scam here. You can read the story on page 7 of the publication today. Abduction. Bashir Gado gives an ordeal on how he went into the hands of police kidnap squad. Veteran journalists thought his kidnappers would use their guns on him or torture him into confessing to some heinous crime in the style of a Moi-era special branch. You can follow the story on page 2 and 3 of the publication today. Junior Sport also is handy for you inside the... It comes in handy for you inside the publication today. Turmoil in Raila camp as allies eye cabinet jobs. Top ODM leaders are divided on whether or not to join a broad-based government promised by President William Ruto after he dismissed his cabinet. It has now emerged that some leaders are concerned about Mr. Odinga's delay in presenting his list to Dr. Ruto, with some party stalwarts said to be ready to accept ministerial offers, even without Raila's blessing. In quotes there, you have the story on page 4 and 5, and these are some of the faces that have been profiled so far. Hassan Joho, ODM Deputy Party Leader, Wycliffe Oparanya, Deputy Party Leader, Opiyo Wandayi, Minority Leader as well. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Star. New demos, Raila coils, angry Ruto talks tough. New demos, Raila coils, angry Ruto talks tough. Gen Zs have called for a fresh round of countrywide demonstrations this week. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the publication today. In his glory, President William Ruto can be seen here during the opening and dedication of African Gospel Church Jibango in Bomet County. With him, is Rhodes CS nominee Davis Churchill and Kenya Africa Gospel Church Bishop Reverend Robert Langat. Of course, cutting the ribbon there, opening of a new church. And he has also talked on how he'll be supportive of the Harambes in churches. And what is there is just to make sure that Harambee is regulated. All right, is it a breakaway from what is given before, even that we seek to have a legislation regarding this? Or is he talking this way, that way? We don't have a clear direction as far as Harambes are concerned, especially where churches is concerned. This is the start today. Let's see what the People Daily is holding for us. No cash for exams, even as students and pupils are sitting for their exams this week. Education, 3.5 million learners risk missing test after 5.023 billion shillings slashed due to error designating national examiner among income-generating state agencies. You can follow the story on page 5 of the People Daily today. And Joe Biden drops out of the U.S. presidential contest, and he has endorsed Kamala Harris to run for the presidency. You can follow the story on page 2 of the publication today. That is the latest from Beyond Our Borders. Enough is enough. Ruto warns brave young protesters. We cannot allow a few who claim to be faceless, nameless, formless, and anonymous to replace democracy with dictatorship. That is a story that you want to follow inside the publication this morning. All right, let's see what we have on the front page of the Taifa Leo. Gen Z munikome. That is what the president say. Shinikizo, Ruto ambia Gen Z kuwa hata kubali kusukumwa nao tena ili yakubali matakwa zaidi. Adai kuna watu fulani wasiojulikana wanaowawekea vijana shinikizo ili wayumbishe serikali yake. You can follow the story on page 2. You can be seen giving the stand warning there. Gen Z munikome. Rais awaonya vijana wanaopanga kuendelea na maandamano kuwa atawachukulia hatua kali wakirudi barabarani. All right, that is a threat there, or a warning shot from the president. You can follow the story inside the publication today. Raila apiga abautani, ampa masharti makali Ruto kabla ya kushiriki mazungumzo na serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. You can follow the story on page 3. Museveni aonya Gen Z wa Uganda wamepanga kuandamana hapo kesho kupinga ufisadi. Even them, their hashtag is Occupy Parliament. And there is a stand warning. This is just the effect, or the ripple effect, of a Gen Z here at home and how it is spreading wide in Africa as well. Follow the story inside the publication today. All right, Mwangaza aanza kuona mwanga tena. Madiwani 10 wajiondoa katika mrengo wa wanaotoka kumng'oa tena uongozini. You can follow the story on page 4. Jumwa hana tatizo Joho kuteuliwa. That is the story on page 5 of the publication this week. Let's buckle down to some business where microfinance banks suffer record loss as loans shrink. That is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily this morning, as you can see it here. And it says that CBK regulated entities post combined 2.39 billion shillings. Big banks, digital lenders eat into microloans market share. That is a story to want to follow inside the Business Daily this morning. That is a splash. And also payroll taxes. Let me try and zoom in so that we can read together there on the ticker. Payroll taxes grow by single digit despite higher deductions. That is another story you want to follow. Taxes on salaries, wages, and allowances paid to workers grew at a single-digit rate in the just concluded financial year, underlining toughening labor market. Also, electricity generation increases 6% as prices drop. Electricity generation increased 5% in the first 6 months of 2024. As consumers bought more units buoyed buoyed by lower prices for 4 consecutive months. CMA fines company directors for trading rules breach. The Capital Markets Authority has fined several directors of listed companies more than 8 million shillings for floating trading rules in the financial year that ended June 30th, 2023. You can find also the story on page 6 of the publication today. All right, foreign banks offices deals up by 48 billion shillings. The value of transactions handled by representatives' offices of foreign banks in Kenya grew by 47.7 billion shillings in 2023. That is another story that can interest you or will interest you inside the Business Daily today. There's a mystery of 180 million shillings Zoya sugar goods, quote unquote, in transit for 8 years, right? We wonder what is the snail pace that has occasioned this particular transit here for 8 good years. 180 million shillings consignment of consumable goods ordered by Nzoia Sugar Company is yet to arrive from abroad 8 years later. An audit has revealed, raising questions over the company's claims that the cargo is in transit, right? It's been making circles around the world, it seems, and it's yet to dock for 8 years. That has been the issue. You can follow the story on page 2 of the publication today. Also, let me show you, as we cross borders, what we do have on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Diplomats open casino at embassy. House of Gamblers. It says here the External Security Organization is investigating circumstances under which top Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials imported equipment that was later used for gambling activities inside the consulate in Dubai, United Arab Emirates as well. You can follow this story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Monitor today. War of words over planned protests. And in the words, as we've seen there in the publication, that is Taifa Leo, about Uganda, the planned protest tomorrow, we have the president warning. He says, my question is, what right do you have to seek to generate chaotic behavior when you have a cheap food and here you want to disturb us? You're playing with fire because we cannot allow you to disturb us. This is a stern warning of the president to the Gen Z in Uganda there. Police spokesperson, that is Kituma Rusoke, is saying, we'll crush it. Uganda Police Forces is issuing a clear warning against attempts to incite violence or breach public order through uncontrolled demonstrations. And we have Ms. Shamin Nambasa, one of the protesters' organizers, and she's saying, we are coming. Nothing has changed. We shall march to Parliament. We believe the president will intimidate and scare us, but the protest will still go on. And that is the brave Shamin Nambasa daring the leadership of the day, saying, we are coming. Nothing has changed. We will not be cowered by your threats. That's what they're saying. 70 war on corruption, new era or political theatrics. That is what we have on Panorama on page 26 and 27 of the publication today. That is the Daily Monitor. And why US President Joe Biden dropped out of election race? Find out all the details tucked away on page 5 of today's publication. We cross over to Tanzania, where number of CNG stations remains low. The high cost involved in the construction of compressed neutral, or not neutral, but natural gas filling stations is hampering the setting up of the facilities in Tanzania. According to the industry players, you have a story there on page 2 of the publication today. Also on top, Ruto offers Raila Party 5 cabinet posts amid row. That is what they're reporting in Tanzania. On page 2, you can follow that story. And Chavda vows to appeal of a criminal charge. On page 3 of the publication today is where you can follow that story. Housemates from hell, the inside story. And you can read all about it on page 3 of the publication today. In Rwanda, Rwanda embraces hydroponic fodder tech to boost production. Technique addresses cattle feed shortages, boosts milk, supports small livestock during dry spell. You can follow the story on page 3. And Duhungirirehe in Accra for AU meeting. You can see him hard at work here in Ghana. Let's see what the China Daily is holding for us today. CPC charts growth blueprints, major initiatives to boost high-level opening up self-reliance in Science Tech. That is the story you want to follow. It's all about the Communist Party of China that is charting a new growth blueprint. And Xi Mon's passing of Guyen Fu Trong as well, all that happening in China. This is the China Daily Global Edition. And you can grab a copy also of The Economist. A ticket to where? That is a probing question. And you can see the presidential candidate, Donald Trump, there, and his deputy president nominee. This is J.D. Vance as well, and that is the probing question, a ticket to nowhere. Now that the dynamics have changed, and we have Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate of the Democrats, as endorsed by Joe Biden, where or what does it portend as far as this ticket is concerned as well? Will there be any discernible difference that will occur? That is a problem question everyone is asking. The bull market's blind spot, Gaza's grim post-war prospects, and will H5N1 avian flu cause a pandemic? That is another question there. School brief, a primer on artificial intelligence. This is how The Economist is looking. You can grab a copy for yourself. All right, the news week on the edge. That is what we have on the front page of the Newsweek. On the edge, can Nigeria fulfill its promise, or will its promise? Can Nigeria fulfill its promise, or will it fall into chaos? That is how it should read, and you can follow the story inside the publication today. All right, South Korea's cultural revolution. That is what also you can follow inside the publication as well. All right, those are your dailies, as you can see it here. Make sure you grab a copy, the one that really floats your boat as well. Time to introduce Dr. Makalimolu, who's up and early, eagerly awaiting to be joined by Geoffrey Ruku and Hilary Sigay, who was attending that particular service also in Bomet. It's a senator of Bomet. He'll tell us fresh from the lips of maybe the president yesterday, as he was giving stern warning regarding the protest and how he's had enough of that as well. We'll be looking at that much later in the course of the program. But let me hear from Dr. Makalimolu. Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
Hi, morning, Ba.
Yes, today you're in suit, so it seems there's a very serious meeting. I know your ways now.
We are working on the budgets.
You're working on the budget?
So from here, we'll be heading to Parliament.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we are working on the budget.
The committee is still working.
We started.
But the resumption of Parliament is tomorrow.
We started last week on Wednesday.
Okay.
So today we want to sort out the final report so that tomorrow we can table it in the House.
What budget is this? The supplementary?
Yeah, this year is actually for the many years I've been in Parliament. This time is a very unique time. Can you imagine you're doing a supplementary of a budget? We have not even spent a single cent in terms of implementation. Because normally the first expenditure item would be salaries for July salaries. But now we have not even paid the July salaries.
There's no money?
No, I mean the budget.
Oh, the budget,
after being passed in June.
Oh, yeah.
Normally the first expenditure would be July salaries. And that's the time we open the system for expenditure to start being in the card. But then this time, we actually revise the budget before you even spend a single cent. And we are calling it a supplementary. It's just that we can't call it now a main budget again. But it can only be called a supplementary because we are changing quite a number of things. But it's not easy. We are facing lots of challenges in terms of what do you reduce, how do we even minimize the deficit. So we've been sitting since last week on Wednesday.
So on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you'll be done, or?
Yeah, and Saturday, we also sat on Saturday. It's only yesterday we didn't sit. So today we are meeting now. In the afternoon, we'll be meeting Treasury to firm up some of the positions we've taken. But still, I think we need to do much more. Because you remember, we target to borrow about 141 billion additional from domestic market.
Yes.
And that will have serious impact on our economy in terms of economic activities, which can trigger growth. So it's a very delicate balance. But we'll see what to do. But the week that was, very interesting week.
Yeah. Before we go to the interesting week, I wanted to know just still, because this is the preserve also of the Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
Auditor General is raising a very serious query here regarding a mystery of 180 million shillings. Zoya sugar goods that has been in transit for 8 good years.
Sugar?
Right, yeah. It says that 180 million shillings consignment of consumable goods ordered by Zoya Sugar Company is yet to arrive from abroad. 8 years later,
wow.
An audit has revealed, raising questions over the company's claim that the cargo is in transit. So I was just wondering, maybe is it a bird on a tortoise, or is it a snail?
No, something
that has been globetrotting the entire 8 years.
I can tell you for sure there's no sugar there.
There's no sugar. There's no goods for Zoya sugar.
There's no goods, as you're calling them, because there's no way you can have 8 years of waiting and still the goods have not arrived into this country. I think that's what we would call hot hair.
This is hot hair.
People just pocketed the money and the records destroyed. So the Auditor General has to continue waiting. The best thing is to get those guys and lock them in.
It's true. Yeah, I think this is some of the things that the Gen Z should pick up.
Yeah, you lock those guys in,
and
they will tell you where the sugar
accountability.
Is. They will tell you where the sugar is. It must be in their pockets. It can't be in another
it's not
place.
Really specifically sugar, but it is goods.
Whatever goods are there, the truth of the matter is you can't do it for 8 years. So let's look for those goods in somebody's pockets or people's pockets. They could be a group.
All right, good.
That's the truth.
Week that has been at sea, Kalonzo Musyoka is not rowing back as far as the dialogue is concerned, and Wiper has been very categorical. So it seems now you're packing your bags to exit Azimio as it stands. And Raila Odinga also, as we see it, he's this way, that way. He has new, fresh demands.
I don't know whether it's us packing our bags or it's the big brother packing his bags to leave the young brother alone. Because if you look at what is happening, it's a position which was taken by majority of the partner parties to Azimio that this might not be the right time to join route to form a national government of national. They call it government of national unity.
Yes.
Something like that. So, last week was very interesting for us because we were called for a meeting as members of parliament.
Yes.
To join our ODM colleagues. So
who called for the meeting?
It was called by the Azimio. Normally, Azimio meetings are called by the minority leader.
Okay.
The invitation comes through Opi Wadai, who is the minority leader. So we were aware that since morning ODM was meeting. So as we were, the rest of the parties were to join them at around 2:30 in the afternoon. So we got there around 2:30. We realized they had not finished their meeting. We had to wait all the way up to around 4. But then, we've been in politics for long now. Even before being told things, you can make observation and see things are not working well.
Yeah.
So when we got there, we realized that after the ODM meeting now, as we were waiting to go in, we could see that some ODM leaders were already out of the hall, others were in the hall. So even when we went to the hall, some never joined us. They just disappeared. And that was the end of the story. So from the word go, you could say it was a division. And when we tried to find out what was happening, we realized that the position taken by the party, majority of the members of the party, the members of the parliament, because this was a PG generally, is that it was not aligned to what the leadership wanted. The leadership was very keen to join the government. The members were saying it might not be the right time. So when we came in and then Wiper to give their position, Jubilee to give their position, DAPK to give their position, then all these positions of these other 3 parties supported the majority of the MPs that we are not going to join the government national unity. And on the basis of that, then that's why you see, because when they gave us what they resoluted, we could see they were not coming out very clear that they are not going to join the government. So we requested that they redo the press release so that it captures that person that we are not joining the government. And that's now, it took so long to change the report. But I think the decision was taken at that point. Guys who had worked earlier had already started mobilizing the young guys to make sure that there was no press release to that effect. And that's why you saw they did not attack the leaders, they attacked the media. And you wonder, media were just to capture what was there. But they didn't want this thing to go out, because if it goes out, then it will have meant that the doors for them to join the Ruto government will have been closed. And that's really what happened. But all said and done, I think the standard has captured it very well. Raila this way, Raila that way. I think that really captures the mood of what is happening. I think for the first time, our leader, the Azimio coalition leader, seems to be sending mixed signals in terms of where the coalition wants to go. But my party leader has come out very clear that Wiper has taken a position, and if this position will be the point of departure,
yes, then
we are ready for it.
All right. Okay, and we'll be hearing momentarily from Hilary Sigay, as he's just getting to, of course, be on the set as well. But you can see editorial cartoons. My director may just pick it up in full, depicting what is going on, especially from the youth politics and here as well. Tone and tone deaf. Here the country is tone deaf. On the other side of the global north is tone, as we saw it with the attempt on his life. This is Donald Trump, and here is tone deaf. So is the president tone deaf in regard to what has been going on? Because when you look at the constitution of the cabinet as well, everyone is questioning why we have the, of course, the surfacing of familiar faces before, and this is what also some of the clergies are taking special umbrage with as well, on why the president had to pick up this familiar faces. Well, he wanted to have a breakaway from what has been there before. This is the ozone inside the star. I wanted to show you also what we do have. Where is it? I'll show you much later what we have on GAMS as well, what he has indicated. But allow me just to rope in Hilary Sigay as he takes his seat. I want to give him a breather to continue to tell us his latest, is fresh from Bomet. I saw you yesterday at the service. So you heard from the president yesterday when he was talking about enough is enough. And this was at the Africa Gospel Church, Chibango. Chibango is not in your home area, is it?
Thank you, Dubab.
No, just say Chibango is home.
Chibango is home, yes. Chibango is one of the most decorated NGC sanctuaries in the county. And it was an opportunity yesterday for the president to open the sanctuary, having been refurbished, and we took the opportunity to...
It's a refurbished sanctuary, yeah?
It's quite an old one. It was begun by actually the former president, the late President Moi.
Okay.
Yeah, he worshipped there. We are told when it didn't have a floor. It was a dusty floor then, and over time they have reconstructed it, and C.S. Davis Chichiran, his family have worshipped. That is their local church, and they have been involved also in the improvement of the sanctuary. Till lately, it is now one among the very few churches within the county that is well done. And so yesterday was the day that we had to dedicate the church, and we were lucky to have the president to worship with us. And thereafter, that is when he addressed the residents of Bomet who had come in numbers to worship and to also have an opportunity to share their experiences lately with the president. And while Bomet is home to the president, And he shared with them, of course, his ideas lately about the state of the nation, the plan going forward, and asked Kenyans to be patriotic, asked Kenyans to look beyond just the demos, but instead look beyond what the Kenya Kwanza government has done, is planning to do, and ask Kenyans to support his presidency, his leadership, his team. And that is where he made reference to a team of people involved in the disquiet, the demonstrations, which for the last 3-4 weeks we've been discussing in this platform and in other places, and told them it's time to rethink the process, the engagement, the direction, and also to allow him to serve the people of Kenya. And the rallying call was actually a call for peace. You probably must have heard from the background, Kenyans were saying, we want peace, and we want peace, and asked him to take the lead. And that is the message of yesterday. Besides, of course, having some very good time with us, sharing the experience and the ambience of the great county of Bomet, he really encouraged Kenyans to be patriotic. And everyone was asking for, Mr. President, we want peace. And if there is anything, there is always a process, there is always the means with which we can come together, dialogue on issues, on ideas that will support his presidency, to serve the people of Kenya, to deliver on the promises that as Kenya Kwanza they made in the run-up to the elections. And he confirmed that there is a plan, and he had a plan, and the plan is on course. So Dibali, it was a good weekend. On Saturday, I also had some great time with my bosses, the employers who gave me this job, and we had a great engagement with the Kenya National Union of Teachers officials from the county. We raised issues, we discussed issues, and had plans on the way forward. The team that had a session with me was led by the County Secretary, Bomet Desmond, and we really had some serious engagement on issues concerning teachers, the issues we have with JSS, the aspect on delocalization of teachers, promotions, which in a number of occasions, the policies that have been implemented by the Teacher Service Commission, both within the country and also within Bomet, are the areas that we discuss, and we had a plan on also a way forward, because as I said, we had a plan, there is a plan, that plan ought to be executed for the benefit of the teachers, which will ultimately translate to support the entire institution of learning, whether you are a member of the union or not. And so it was such an engaging weekend, very objective, very fruitful, I must say, and we look forward to having a fantastic week ahead, where we now will try to implement a number of those discussions that we've had.
Right, even maybe much later you'll tell us, because I can see there is no unequivocal voice, collective voice, as far as NAT is concerned, with the appointment of Mr. Ogamba as a new CS for education. NAT is saying he's not the right person who's snugly fitting that particular docket. I don't know if that was also the same sentiment on the ground with you.
Of course, there is always the tendency, Dibal, of people saying the docket for the Ministry of Education, for example, is best managed by an educationist. That is part of the conversation from among the teachers. They're saying, look, we really need to have someone who's got a background in managing institutions of learning to run the Ministry of Education. But you know what? We have had previously other ministers or cabinet secretaries running the education ministry, and who are not necessarily teachers by profession, who are not necessarily educationists, who are actually managers. Because remember, the position of a cabinet secretary is that high level. This is at the policy level. what and who we need in that office is someone who would understand on how to manage, how to create policies and manage them towards now enhancing the sector of education. Senior Ogamba is a colleague in the profession. He's a lawyer by training. Yeah. And I must say he's such a great man. He's a seasoned lawyer. He has been the chairperson of Kengen, the board of Kengen, and you probably have seen in the reportings in the media the performance of Kengen. So he's a performer. He's done.
So this was after Choge?
Yeah, yes. Actually, he's the current chairperson of the board of Kengen. And he's run an illustrious career in law. And so we definitely wouldn't dismiss such concerns by, the people within the profession. But when you look back, I mean, the ministry have previously been run by people who are not educationists, and they've been doing well. I mean, fairly well, I would say.
But when you talk about consultation,
I would like to encourage the teachers in this country to give an opportunity, if and when, of course, the designate nominee for the Ministry of Education is taken through Parliament and vetted, if he is appointed. I'm definitely confident about his capacity.
Right, but when the president indicates that he will seek more consultation, a wider consultation amongst the stakeholders.
Yes.
And this is stakeholders that he should have sought out advice before, so that at least you don't have them raising hesitation or reservations about the person that they've chosen.
You're trying to say that there were no consultations by the president
but you can see this is the stakeholders. This is not or the body that I think should be endorsing and saying, yes, I think you picked up the right person.
Yes, KNUT, Coopert, and so many other players within the education sector definitely have got a great interest to play in the education sector. And I must tell you, and I must let at least Kenyans and the teachers of this country know that by the time the president settles on an individual, definitely consultations must have gone into place. And you know what? We, in most cases, make an assumption that there hasn't been consultations merely because they are dissenting voices. And that is the beauty of democracy.
But not,
that is the beauty
as a
of
huge
freedom
constituent of the academia.
Definitely,
yes,
but it is not the entirety of the union that actually said we definitely were not consulted or we do not approve of this nominee. And it's okay to do that. We are not saying they're doing the wrong thing. It's so okay. Why? Because they also have got to be heard in terms of what they would want, who they would want to run the sector. So despite the consultations that went into this nomination, there are naturally going to be members of various groupings that would say, look, we definitely held a completely different view on the nominee, but nonetheless, the consultations went into this decision debate. I would confirm that. That definitely happened.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All right,
that is why we still have got another set that's coming. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, let's just follow up also what Senator Hilary Sige has been telling us about Chibango Church, where the president was, and he had issued a stern warning to Gen Z protesters, stating that going forward, it will not be business as usual. The president criticized the protesters and their leaders for failing to disclose their endgame following the destruction of property and loss of lives. He has challenged them to stop destabilizing the nation's peace. And we have Grace Nyanga starting us off.
After 4 weeks of anti-government protest that had resulted in deaths and destruction of property, President William Ruto has issued a stern warning to protesters, declaring that enough is enough.
Tuwezi kukubali taifa letu ni eti tuwachane na demokrasia, tuende kwa udikteta wa fujo, maafa, kuharibu mali na mambo ya kuleta anarchy katika taifa letu la Kenya. That one we will not do.
Speaking after attending a church service in Bomet County, the head of state said that he had already made several concessions to the protesters, including rejecting the Finance Bill 2024, saying it is now time to protect the nation.
As a government, we will protect our democracy. We will protect the peace and stability of our nation, and we will deal firmly and resolutely with those who are engaged in mayhem, in anarchy, in destroying people's property, in causing the death of Kenyans.
The president further challenged the alleged sponsors behind the anti-government protests to reveal their identities and present the development plans for the country, rather than constantly attacking the government.
They cannot continue to be anonymous. Let them step forward and tell us, what is this violence going to achieve in the Republic of Kenya? And what is their plan beyond this violence?
Ruto also said he had offered an opportunity to the Gen Z protesters to air the grievances, but claims they are not willing to negotiate with the government.
Nikawaita wakanasema hawataki kuja kuzungumza na mimi. Wakaniambia niende huko kwa X. Mimi nikaenda kwa X. Wakatoroka huko, hawakukweko. Wakaniambia tuitishe mazungumzo. Nimeitisha mazungumzo, wamekataa. Nimewaambia wanaendelea kusema wao ni faceless, wao ni formless, sijui wako nini. Mimi nimewaambia sasa, my friends, you know, I have given a chance to everybody to say whatever they want.
On his part, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who was speaking at the PCEA Kayole Parish here in Nairobi, urged Kenyans to have confidence in the Ruto administration as it tackles the challenges facing the nation.
Ninamuomba tafadhali msikubali tena kurudi kwa barabara, kwa sababu watu wenye nia mbaya wamehijack ile kitu yenu ilikuwa mzuri, kuanza wizi na kuharibu mali.
The president had asked young people to nominate 50 representatives to sit in the multi-sectoral forum, which was supposed to start last Monday. However, the 6-day forum did not commence as planned because various sectors allegedly failed to submit the names of nominees.
Mnasema nisiogope? Mimi niko chonjo, my friends. Ni vile tu majukumu ya kuendesha Kenya ni mazito na lazima ni balance mambo mingi.
The dialogue was intended to find solutions to the issues raised by the protesters and other challenges facing the country. Ruto has urged Kenyans to safeguard the peace, stability, and democracy of the country to ensure it is not undermined and sabotaged by those allegedly sponsoring the anonymous protesters. Grace Nganga, KTN News, Nairobi.
No, just hours after the government warned Gen Z against protesting, the youth have taken to social media, I should say, to publish several posters inviting Kenyans to join the planned protest throughout the week. As our reporter Vera Moral tells us, the youth have threatened to occupy Parliament, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and Uhuru Park on Tuesday.
They cannot continue to be faceless. They cannot continue to be nameless. They cannot continue to be formless. They cannot continue to be anonymous. Let them step forward and tell us, what is this violence going to achieve in the Republic of Kenya? And what is their plan beyond this violence?
After President William Ruto's remarks, the ongoing Gen Z protests that have been witnessed in the country for over a month may come to a stop. However, this generation insists on no results, no stops. As soon as President Ruto warned the youth against the anti-government protest, the internet was abuzz with mixed reactions, some congratulating President Ruto, while others criticized him. In response, President Ruto posed the question, what does this generation want? Some of the complaints posted online include dissatisfaction with the new list of cabinet secretaries proposed by President Ruto. Not forgetting other requests such as a detailed audit of the national debt that have not been addressed by the Kenya Kwanza government since the beginning of the demonstrations. Later on social media, the youth published their schedule for protest, beginning Tuesday 23rd of July to Wednesday 31st of July 2024. On Tuesday, the youth have vowed to enter Parliament for the second time and occupy Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and gather at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. For about a month now, Kenya has been witnessing protests, especially on Tuesday and Thursday.
What is this violence going to achieve in the Republic of Kenya?
However, after President William Ruto's statement and response given by Generation Z on the internet, many Kenyans are left wondering, what next? Vera Mora, KT News, Nairobi.
Also for Azimio leader, where we have Azimio leader Raila Odinga has presented a 6-point action plan that the government must address before it engages in any discussions with President William Ruto. Topping the list is the compensation of victims of police brutality, dismissal of all protest-related cases, and release of all abductees and prisoners. Finicoloch has more.
Azimio leader Raila Odinga is yet again sending mixed signals about his commitment of forming a national dialogue team with President William Ruto. Through his social media, Raila has released a statement detailing a list of fresh demands that must be addressed by the government before any talks commence. In the latest development, the opposition leader is seen to be playing safe with the youth who have warned him against forming any pact with President Ruto, and is now supporting some of the demands the Gen Z have been advancing. Odinga says there must be compensation for every victim of police brutality and dismissal of all protest-related cases. He is also demanding the release of all abductees and those in jail, resolution of outstanding healthcare and education grievances, and reverting of public healthcare infrastructure back to National Health Insurance Fund (NHIF), and discarding of the Social Health Insurance Fund (SHIF). Raila has also called for the prosecution of all security sector perpetrators who have facilitated atrocities on peaceful Kenyans. He also proposed that representatives for this convention should come from various sectors, including the youth, government, religious leaders, healthcare professionals, lawyers, and teachers. The former premier insisted that the country must come together to discuss national and constitutional critical issues touching on good governance, skyrocketing cost of living, eradicating tribalism, fighting corruption and debt, and fiscal management, among others. This comes barely 2 weeks after the former premier joined President William Ruto and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua at the KICC for signing of the IEBC Amendment Bill 2024 as recommended by NADCO report. However, this move seemed costly for Raila as his core Azimio principles distanced themselves from any engagement with the government.
We shall not join for the straightforward reason that such actions are betrayal of the ideology, values and tenets of both our coalition party and our constituent parties.
The position we have taken as DAP is that we will not be party to the dialogue or to the broad-based government. If our colleagues in Azimio choose to join, we will not be party to it.
A stance shared by some within his own political party, ODM.
Me, as James Agre Orengo, putting aside even my position as a governor, that justice must be done. We cannot kill our people. And the time when we are mourning them, we are looking for officers. That cannot happen. We must first deal with injustice.
Israel Odinga's latest move a sign of him bowing to pressure and walking away from the national dialogue. Finik Oluoch, KTN News.
And a section of religious leaders have criticized President William Ruto's dismissal and subsequent reappointment of former cabinet secretaries, calling it a gimmick intended to deceive Kenyans. According to the clergy, Gen Z had specific demands that the government must address with genuine goodwill. Speaking from various places of worship across the country, the leaders also urged the youth to allow room for talks to resolve the situation. Alan Ochanda has more.
A significant shift has occurred since the onset of the Gen Z-led demonstrations demanding major governance reforms, with places of worship now free from political discourse. Previously, pulpits had turned into political stages. After Sunday's service, the clergy voiced their stance on the current political turmoil, calling for a ceasefire.
I only pray for the dialogue that will be found is the dialogue that will represent every need of the parties, especially the Gen Zs. This nation, we should not begin killing our children. When they are asking for the bread, we kill them.
Right now, the opposition is trying to mend up with the government. So the Gen Z, you are the next opposition. So for me, I want the Gen Z to fire up. The Gen Z to fire up.
Last week, religious leaders led by the Anglican Church of Kenya's Archbishop David Ole Sapit condemned the killings witnessed during the nationwide demonstrations and called for dialogue. Political leaders are also weighing in. Some county governors keen to prevent similar occurrences plan to engage the youth next week.
Wiki ijayo nimeandaa mkutano, a physical meeting na Gen Zs wote wa Kakamega ili tuweze kujadiliana vile tunasaidiana kuongoza kaunti yetu. Gen Zs umeongea, mlishurutisha rais akasikiza, na pia mimi nimesema we must give an opportunity to our Gen Zs so that they can participate in the leadership and development of our county and our country.
The Gen Zs riot call, the Gen Zs call, is only a call for reform so that Kenya can be a better place to live in. You do not run away when your children ask for reform. We need the government of Kenya to be in place to secure our tomorrow.
Although President Ruto has met some of the Gen Z's demands, his dismissal and subsequent rehiring of cabinet secretaries has angered some Kenyans.
The firing of the cabinet was hoodwinking people. And I think what the president has done, he has made people to be more angry. And probably he doesn't want people to leave the protests. He is refueling the protests. And even when he is asking who is really funding the Gen Z protest, I think he is the greatest funder.
So sometimes the issue of education and other considerations don't matter in a cabinet. The commitment and the passion by that minister to deliver results is very, very important. And that's why we somehow abandoned the performance contracting, or it has been more of symbolic than factual. I think it is a high time that the president put back the cabinet to performance contracting so that each MDA, each ministry, departments are able to operate on a very, very, very tangible results, which are measurable and on which the minister can be held to account.
Despite ongoing calls for dialogue and the president's partial concessions, the head of state has warned the youth against holding demos. Alan Ochanda, KTN News.
Human rights groups based at the coast have criticized a section of religious leaders accusing them of being used by the government in the calls for national dialogue. Speaking in Mombasa under the umbrella of Jumuiya za Pwani civil societies, they argued that it was wrong for the clerics to call for talks while remaining silent on demanding justice for those killed, maimed, or abducted during the anti-government protest. They have also accused President William Ruto of not being sincere in his calls for dialogue as cases of abductions continue to rise.
We are giving notice to the DPP because that is where the prosecution starts. We are giving you 14 days. We want to see police officers arraigned in court within 14 days. If you want evidence, come to us, or we'll provide their videos, their photographs, the evidence is there. There is no excuse.
Wale walioko kwenye upinzani must continue to offer checks and balances and not in any way join the government. Mwanasiasa yoyote kutoka upinzani atakayeunga ama atakayekubali kuwekwa katika serikali, huyo ni msaliti wa demokrasia, huyo ni msaliti wa kizazi cha Gen Z, na huyo ni msaliti wa Wakenya kwa jumla.
Usingizia civil society kwamba sisi ndio tumemobilize vijana waende barabarani, that is neither here nor there. I think the government should realize kwamba sahi vijana wako enlightened, Kenyans are enlightened, and they know their rights.
All right. few minutes past 7 o'clock. We want to take a short break, but just a tender reminder on the editorial cartoons that will paint a picture of where we are at as a country with those stories as well. They are snugly fitting also for our discussion. ODM's position on dialogue is confusingly clear. As you can see it, every hand is pointing every which way. Mr. Raila Odinga, where is your true north? That is what the cartoon there by Victor Ndulo seemed to be depicting. And of course, Zakayo has clamped down with a handshake, as you can see it here on his lips, to give the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And of course, Albert Einstein said, in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. And you can see the musical chairs, how they were flying during that particular Azimio meeting, and Kalonzo Musyoka taking a cover for his life as well, as the musical chairs were being strewn everywhere, right? He's always have this knack of seeing opportunity in every crisis, and that is Raila Odinga, as is being depicted here. All right, we have ODM, and that car is perched on the pinnacle of a mountain there. Let's talk William on one side, and of course, now this depicting the implosion that is within, all the divide, the chasm that is widening within the Azimio fraternity right now. They're not seeing on, of course, all the same lens as far as the issue of cabinet is concerned. And they're saying game plan, not boarding. And role reversal, right? We have now, who is a watermelon? There, of course, we've known melon, or the watermelon was quintessentially associated with Kalonzo Musyoka for the longest time, but now it seems Raila is patching on the watermelon. He is a new watermelon, and you can see Gen Z Protestant victims. They are standing on the coffins of all this with the CSS post as well, and that is Raila Odinga, and of course President William Ruto right now cutting that jogo, that is the cabinet slots. Right, we have 11 appointees so far, and we are waiting to see how the formation will be from the other side of the divide. And just because I took the unwanted dialogue path doesn't mean that I am against the Gen Zs. I stand with our kids. And if you can see that acronym, what it does really stand is Judas, right? Raila Odinga, he's become a Judas, betraying his own right now when they need him the most. And this is what Gams has drawn. Will you marry me? And it seems that is what the bread on the wheelbarrow, nusu mukate, is being proffered to Raila Odinga as well. And that is what we do have there, torn and torn deaf, right? Donald Trump's ear was literally torn by the bullet, as you can see it here. And now we have also the president, our president, who's torn deaf, according to Ozone and what is drawn today. And that is snugly fitting with today's standard. Raila